we'll kick things off, shall we? With manager of the season, Justin, who have we gone for here?
We've gone with John Eustace, formerly of Blackburn, but now of Derby. In coming up with this conclusion on manager of the season, I feel it's been quite tight. But to give John Eustace his flowers that he fully deserves, by the way, you've got a manager who has excelled in 2 jobs this season and has essentially exceeded expectations way more than any manager has in the Championship this season for both Blackburn and Derby. For context, in 45 league games he's managed so far, weirdly he's missed 1, I imagine in the changeover between going from Blackburn to Derby. He's accrued 66 points. He just misses out on the top 6 with that, but obviously with that extra league game, could have won it, found himself in the top 6. So for 2 clubs with strapped budgets, terribly balanced squads and low expectations, he's just delivered a ridiculous scenario for both of these clubs.
Yeah, I can't see past anyone but John Eustace for manager of the season. He has produced one of the most unique achievements this past year, and that is have 2 manager of the season worthy jobs at 2 different clubs in the same season. I can't think of anyone who's ever done that before at any level of football, let alone in the Championship. It's easy to forget now, but Blackburn were being widely tipped to struggle this season. Some were even tipping them to go down. Instead, they've been competing for the playoffs with very little backing and, of course, without last season's top scorer in Sammy Spodix. Then he went to Derby, defied all the odds to keep them up. It's difficult to convey just how abysmal Derby were before he came in. At one point, they were bottom, 4 points from safety, and Eustace completely turned them around from that point. 6 wins from their final 11 games. It looked as if they needed a great escape to stay up, and they actually ended up doing it somewhat comfortably on the final day. So managing to significantly overachieve with 2 clubs in such short periods of time is remarkable. And we'll probably get accused of bias for going with Eustace as our manager of the season, Justin, but I generally don't think it's played into my thinking at all, the fact that he's the Derby manager. In fact, if Eustace stayed in charge of Blackburn and guided them to a 7th place finish, like they've ended up doing, I think I would still give him manager of the season, because what he's done has been just completely remarkable.
I think it's one of those where if Eustace delivers Blackburn's finish that they achieved this season, absolutely, definitely in the reckoning for manager of the season. If Eustace leaves Blackburn and goes to Luton, who were in a similar position to Derby at the time, and keeps them in the Championship, manager of the season easily. It doesn't matter who he's in charge of at this occasion. It's the fact that he's taken one club who was tipped for relegation, whose budget is limited, whose recruitment is limited, sold their best player in Sammy Schmodix as well, by the way, and has taken them to within on the brink of the top 6. And then he leaves that job for reasons known to him to go to a club struggling in the bottom 3, and keeps them in the Championship. Is remarkable. And you are right to say Derby were abysmal. If anyone wants to know how abysmal Derby were, just go and listen to any of our episodes between January and just January, actually, because that period under Paul Warne was miserable. They weren't scoring, they weren't doing anything, and Eustace has kept them in the Championship. It's a wild scenario, and one that we don't see at all. A manager going from a playoff chasing team to a team at the bottom 3. It's it was one that we probably won't see very often again. So yeah, John Eustace, doesn't matter who he's managed this season, he's taken a club to the brink of the top 6 and helped a club survive in the Championship.
Yeah, great escape, really, wasn't it, in the end, considering how far gone Derby looked at various points of the season. And usually when we give out our manager of the season, we more often than not go with a manager who's won promotion. Like last season, we had Kieran McKenna. The season before, it was Vincent Kompany. I can't remember who it was before that. But this season, I look at the 2 managers who have achieved promotion. They've done it with the 2 strongest squads, the most resources in the league. If they got promoted by blitz in the competition, then it may be a different story, but they haven't. So I can't be looking at them. And so you're looking elsewhere around the division, and out of the remaining managers, no one else has overachieved like John Eustace has. And we may as well go on to the honourable mentions now, Justin. The honourable mentions, I want to give a shout out. I'm laughing because the first one I've got written down is Tom Cleverley, Justin, who, of course, we spoke about yesterday after being sacked by Watford. What a flipping ridiculous decision that was. Liam Manning at Bristol City, getting them into the playoffs. The first manager to do that in, 17 years. Crazy. Gary Rowett keeping them up and keeping them up comfortably at Oxford. Yeah, definitely deserves recognition. And Regis Labrise as well is another one who deserves a lot of credit for the job he's done at Sunderland this season. Any shouts from you, Justin? And don't say Scott Parker.
Why?
You know why. We've gone over this way too much.
I'm going to say Scott Parker. You've said all the others that essentially are in contention. Scott Parker deserves the mention, mainly because when you compare it to the achievements of John Eustace, Eustace is rightly being ahead of Scott Parker because Parker, the squad he inherited, and the circumstances are way better than the ones that Eustace had at Blackburn and Derby. But Scott Parker has delivered a record-breaking season. When talking about manager of the season, I think Scott Parker at least deserves a mention.
Well, Daniel Farke deserves a mention as well because he's done just as good a job as Scott Parker. So the fact that you're not mentioning him shows you're just clearly trying to wind me up. But we'll move on.
Bloody worked, hasn't it?
We'll move on to the next award, which is Goal of the Season. Justin Peach. Who have we gone with here?
One came to mind straight away with this one. Mark Harris versus Blackburn for Oxford United. This is a goal we saw live, which probably makes it all the more remarkable and special. So there is a lot of bias confounded within that. But I genuinely believe that Mark Harris scored one of the best goals I've seen in person. We don't see volleys like that anymore. We just don't see it very regularly because Pep Guardiola's ruined football in this country because it's all about tippy-tappy, getting into the box, passing your opposition to death. Mark Harris thought, fuck it, I'm hitting this. And he hit it with glorious perfection. Ball coming over from Jamie Cumming. This was Route 1 football. Ball coming in from goalkeeper Jamie Cumming. Matt Phillips chests it. Mark Harris volleys it from about 35 yards. And it was like watching an orchestra. It was beautiful.
Yeah, not sure an orchestra is what I would compare it to, but you're absolutely right with everything else you said there, Justin. I'll tell you what, we've had an unbelievable standard of goals this season. Like, genuinely might be the highest standard we've ever seen. So many goals would have won goal of the season in a normal year. So it was going to take something pretty special to win this season. And I think this has to be it. Guys, it's a 30-yard volley. Is there anything more we need to say about it? The audacity to even try it in the first place is outrageous, but then the technique to hit it so well that it goes under the bar but over the goalkeeper, it's insane. And again, maybe we're biased, Justin, because we were there when it happened, but it's one of the most outrageous goals I've ever seen in person.
Yeah. And no disrespect to Mark Harris, but it's a player who's not renowned for hitting shots like that either. When you think about volleys, you think about very, well, especially at championship level or just long range purlers. I think there are a very select few footballers that can deliver those types of strikes. You know, it's audacious as well because he just hits a volley. You know, he's not controlled it himself. He's not kept it up for himself or chested it. He's just Phillips has just chested it. It's in the air, and Mark Harris has put his foot through it with perfection.
He thought, fuck it, Justin. I'm hitting this bastard.
Like I said, it was just a wonderful, wonderful goal to see live in person, and I'm gutted that we'll probably see another goal to that standard live again, but not watching Derby. Let's be honest.
Well, the thing is, this was the only game we've been to together so far this season that didn't involve Derby County, and it just so happened to feature goal of the season. You know, we could have picked any of the 552 games that happen in a season, and we somehow managed to pick this one where this happens. It's unbelievable. I will never forget our producer Charlie, who was there with us when it happened. He doesn't watch much Championship football. He's usually a Premier League kind of guy, but when this goal went in, he very briefly lost his mind. I was just in shock. And Justin, because we were doing a podcast that day, hence the reason why we were there, we can actually now hear the audio of us reacting instantly off the back of that goal right now. Let's have a listen. No way!
Oh my god.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! What has just happened?
That is so good. I completely forgot what it sounded like, but that is so good.
I forgot that existed. I love it. I absolutely love it. Generally, like, that's how much of a shock it was to see. Just a man attempt something he shouldn't attempt like that in a football pitch was beautiful.
Yeah, fair play to producer Charlie for having the wherewithal to be just coincidentally recording at that very moment, because he wasn't recording throughout the whole game, I don't think,
no.
But he was in that brief moment, which started from a goal kick, as you say, Justin.
Yep.
It's absolutely insane. One final thing to mention, this was the third game of the season when this happened. Mark Harris, after scoring this, the goal of a lifetime, played every game for the remainder of the season for Oxford. He would score just 3 goals in 43 appearances. But this goal, Justin, counts for 20, I say.
Yep, and Oxford stayed up, so what a season for Mark Harris.
Yeah.
That's one
it's
way.
been a roller coaster, hasn't it? Flipping heck.
It has. I will bear in mind that after seeing this goal, and Mark Harris was on a run at this point, I did tip him for Golden Boot.
Yep, and look how that went. Let's do some honourable mentions, Justin. This will be interesting. I've got down Andy Vyman for Blackburn versus Burnley in the East Lancashire derby. That was a beautiful goal on the half volley. Michael Smith for Sheffield Wednesday away at Portsmouth, where he just thought 30 yards out. One of the replays for that one is filthy. Cameron Brannigan for Oxford versus Cardiff. That was a very recent one, a free kick where he's just absolutely leathered it into the top bin for miles out. Eliza Mayenda for Sunderland against Bristol City, where he's dribbled essentially the length of the pitch to score. That was absolutely brilliant. Maybe would have won goal of the season, actually, if it wasn't as part of a losing effort for Sunderland. And finally, Josh Windass for Sheffield Wednesday versus Derby. Had to bring that one up, Justin, because you got a lot of stick off the back of that one. I think it may be our most viewed social media clip we've ever put out. Something like 800,000 views, where you said you could score that goal, which is the biggest load of bollocks you've ever spouted in your life.
It's not, is it? I can score that goal. That goal was repeated by a couple of players this season alone. I'm going to say it again. It's a good goal. Is it a goal of the season contender? Absolutely not.
I was going to ask, are you willing to retract that? But clearly not after what you've just said.
Doubling
there,
down.
Because, yeah, fine.
I just need to give you one more mention that you've neglected. It's Curtis Nelson's header against QPR.
Oh, yes, for Derby County. That was, one of the best headers I've ever seen, Justin. That was unbelievable.
Didn't win goal of the season for Derby, which I am furious at.
Did win goal of the season?
I think it was Jerry Yates's bicycle kick against Plymouth.
That was all right.
But that header, when we're talking about headers, that is the definition of what you should be doing. Just pure power from a header, for goodness sake.
It's a worldy header. You don't get many worldy headers, but that is right up there. As I say, loads and loads of honourable mentions for goal of the season. But I think Mark Harris, considering that was the third game of the season when that happened, he always had the upper hand in that particular debate, didn't he? Let's go on to our next award, which is Shithouse of the Season. We have gone with Quadro Bar of Watford for his fortnight dancing against Portsmouth. This was just bizarre. I don't really know what happened, really. I don't understand what goes through a man's head when he's got multiple angry men coming towards him and he suddenly thinks to himself, I'm going to do a fortnight dance right now. What is the thinking process here? I don't get it, but it was very funny. So a bit of context. Watford had just beaten Portsmouth. I think they came from a goal down off the top of my head, and Barr was giving the Portsmouth fans a load of stick. He went to the away end, was basically cupping his ears and what have you. The Portsmouth players weren't too happy about it. So when they come charging at him to confront him, he does that take the L dance that happens in Fortnite. A grown man doing that. I don't understand it at all, but the sheer commitment to the art of shithousery in this one moment I'm willing to let it slide. And to top things off, when Portsmouth and Watford met in the reverse fixture, Pompey striker Christian Sadie celebrated the win by doing the same fortnight dance. That is the legacy of this moment right here, Justin Peach.
It's the definition of a good shithouse, is you live in the head of your opponent rent free, and that's what happened here, because that was repeated. But honestly, Kwadwo Bar let his intrusive thoughts win, and I'm so glad he did. I'd never seen anything like it on a football pitch. Just the complete antagonisation. It's like when you're arguing with a sibling and you want to really piss them off, so you do something stupid that just pushes them over the edge. And my God, that had the entirety of Portsmouth on strings here. It was just a wonderful moment.
It's like, Justin, when your sibling is getting told off by your mum or your dad, and your mum or your dad's got their back to you, and then you start doing it over their shoulder to your sibling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean. I'm the youngest of four. I've been in that situation before. But it's just pure stirring of emotion. I would argue that Kwadwo Bar reached a cultural height there, in that he, as I say, just stirred emotion so much that it angered the entirety of an entire city. John Mousinho came out and said after the game that if any of his players were caught doing that, ironically, Christian Sadie did do that, that he wouldn't play them anymore, which was soon forgotten. But that's how much emotion was stirred. It had Mousinho say that he will get rid of players if they do that in the heat of the moment. And that's why this is the marker of a shithouse moment. Kwadwo Bar, just take a bow, sir, or take an L, I don't know.
Yeah. You definitely take a bow for this one. And usually we don't like giving it out for one individual moment, do we, Justin? We like to see our shithouses extend it over the season, really perfect the art. But this was a masterclass in shithousery. Let's give some honourable mentions, shall we? I've got Adam Forshaw of Blackburn celebrating in front of his former manager Miron Muslic after scoring against Plymouth, after just running over and just standing with his hands cupped around his ears in front of him.
Yeah, a moment he denied.
Yeah. I don't know who else he was. Well, he said he was doing it to his family, didn't he?
Yeah.
But just coincidentally, Miron Muslic happened to be stood a matter of feet in front of him.
Exactly. Doesn't quite add up, Adam Forshaw. But the moment I wanted to bring up was Patrick Bamford singing or initiating the song Wilder is a Wanker.
Oh, yes.
To the point where there had to be a public apology.
While we're on the theme of that, actually, I'll give another shout out for Bamford and Ethan Ampadu for singing Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield during Leeds' title-winning celebrations a couple of days ago. And Ethan Ampadu in general for just completely having the sesh of his life by being completely unfiltered on the microphone. Who thought it was a good idea to give him a mic? I have no idea, but it was very entertaining, it's got to be said. Justin, we'll have a quick break, shall we? After that, we'll go on to our signings of the season, young player of the season, and of course, player of the season. Welcome back to the Second Tier Podcast. It is the Second Tier Awards, and it's now time for us to reveal the winner of our Jameson Hero of the Season. Because every single week, we've been asking you to nominate a fellow Championship fan that you believe deserves recognition. And a big thank you again to everyone who has sent us a voice note this season. Even if yours didn't make it onto the show, we've listened to and appreciated every single one of them. But we had to narrow it down to our 4 favourite winners: Dennis, Helen, Connor, and Ed. We put it to a poll on X. And the winner is Hull City fan Dennis. Let's remind ourselves of Dennis's nomination.
Now then, gents, I would like to nominate my Uncle Dennis for the Weekend Hero. A bit of background on Uncle Dennis. He's turning 95 on the 5th of April, but he didn't actually start coming to Hull City games with us until he was 80. He's lived the majority of his life as a Leeds fan, but we forgive him for that, because when he turned 80, he decided he wanted to spend some time with his nephews and go see some live football. So he started coming to Hull City games, and he's been there with us through 2 promotions, the FA Cup semi-final and final, the playoff final against Sheff Wednesday, and the relegation to League One, which we don't talk about. He's now a fully converted Hull City fan and cheers us on whenever we play Leeds. The best thing, though, is that despite being nearly 95, he still insists on driving us to any home games we can get to. He can't walk too well anymore, but he always says that driving is one of the things that he can do and he wants to do for us. It's just a testament to the man, really, that he wants to make those memories, and football just wouldn't be the same without him. Last thing I'll say is that he absolutely loves the Jamesons.
And he is now been crowned the Jameson Hero of the Season, Justin. A very worthy winner, I would say.
Oh, without doubt. I mean, just going away from the Leeds following to becoming a Hull fan is a big step. But to do it because you want to spend more time with family, I think is very, very heartwarming. It really, really is. And obviously driving around's hard enough on a match day, but being 95 and doing it is an incredible feat. So, yeah, he's putting in all the effort there, and he's getting his rewards now.
Yeah, a legend, an absolute legend of the game, and a hero of the Jameson Weekend Hero, because that's what he's been crowned, the hero of the season. So with that being said, Justin, let's raise a glass of Jameson Ginger and Lime to Dennis and recognise the incredible accomplishment which he has pulled off right here. Delicious, as always. We do love a good Jameson. It's been a fantastic feature throughout this entire season. Dennis will be getting a bottle of Jameson Triple Triple, the extra fancy stuff, Justin. And a big thank you once again to everyone who's got involved throughout the season during this feature. A big thank you to Jameson, of course. It's been great highlighting the unsung heroes in football. And we hope you've been enjoying it at home as well. A lovely bit of wholesome content, which I think we all need nowadays, considering the current state of the world. Justin, let's get back on to the awards then, shall we? We'll go on to the next award, which is Permanent Signing of the Season. Who have we got, Justin?
We've got Josh Murphy of Portsmouth. Free transfer. A free transfer. Played a huge role in keeping Portsmouth in the division this season. Their first, obviously, since being promoted from League One. And he's delivered what a good winger should deliver. He's scored goals and he's created goals. Credit to him for doing that, but also credit to John Mousinho for getting more out of him again. I think the remarkable thing about Josh Murphy is, I don't want to keep repeating ourselves, but his form at the end of last season with Oxford was a hot flush. It was a hot flush. It was, a really good run of form towards the end of the campaign. A campaign where he didn't sort of excel for large periods of it until, as I say, the latter stages of the season before Oxford go on into the playoffs. He plays a big role in getting them into the Championship. But yeah, this season has been a season so good, by the way. Also, it's worth pointing out, he's had to reaffirm his commitment to the club. I mean, speculation linking him with a move away. He's obviously doubled down. He says he wants to stay at Portsmouth. That's brilliant. But I think another thing here as well, he's hit 20 goal involvements this season, or more than 20 goal involvements now, for the first time in his career. This has been a move that has suited everybody. It's got the best out of Josh Murphy. It's helped Portsmouth stay in the Championship, and John Mousinho has got an attacker that he can rely on. He won Portsmouth Player of the Season as well, which goes to show just how important he's been to that football club. Signing of the season, Ryan.
Yep. Completely agree, Justin. I think there are a lot of players who we could have chosen for permanent signing of the season. My honourable mentions list is a lengthy one. So it would have to be something special for the person who won this. And pound for pound, there hasn't been a signing better than this. A free transfer for a guy who, in my opinion, has been the difference between Portsmouth staying up and going down. I think they would have gone down without Josh Murphy. 7 goals and 14 assists, the joint most assists in the division, 21 goal contributions, bettered by only 5 players this season. To get that sort of return on a free transfer is remarkable. And as I was alluding to with our team of the season, you look at just about every player in the top 10 for the most goal contributions this season. They're mostly playing for the top sides, aren't they? They're surrounded by very talented players. Not Josh Murphy, no disrespect to Portsmouth, but he's been part of a Portsmouth side fighting to stay up for the past years. So an exceptional campaign. And whoever at Portsmouth convinced him to ditch Oxford and join them on a free, they deserve a big pay rise, Justin.
Yeah, they really, really do. And it's just, he's linked with Derby as well, actually, which, there's whether they're the big the club or not, I don't know. Whether they're offering more, I don't know. But what you can say here is this move has suited and really helped Josh Murphy just rediscover what he loves doing. We spoke about him falling out of love with football, and it's an easy thing to do when you're professional, especially when things aren't going your way. So you can really tell he's enjoyed himself this season. And one point that I've continuously made is the fact that he's been there for the entire season. He's not been injured. He's been consistent. He's been a thorn in the side of opposition fairly often. Colby Bishop has missed periods of the season. Callum Lang's missed periods of the season. Josh Murphy's been there for the entirety, and he's delivered.
Yeah, 100%. Could not agree more with everything you say there, Justin Peach. Let's do some honourable mentions for permanent signing of the season. As I say, I've got a lot here, Justin. We'll start off with Ao Tanaka at Leeds, Jedi Bogle of Leeds, Joe Roden at Leeds. A big holy trifecta there for Leeds. Victor Johansson at Stoke. I think Stoke probably would have gone down if it wasn't for Victor Johansson, so he's definitely worthy of a mention. Jaffet Tanganga at Millwall. How Millwall got him on a free transfer is beyond me. Michael Cooper and Tyrese Campbell at Sheffield United. Cooper in particular, one of the best goalkeepers in the division for £2 million. That is a sterling bit of business. And Jack Radoni at Coventry as well. He cost £5 million, so a bit more expensive than some of the guys I've just mentioned there, but is proving to be a very, very talented player and will be a big player for Coventry in the long term. Anyone I've missed out there, Justin?
No, I think Radoni's the big one. Since Lampard came in, he's really, really pushed to another level. His delivery from set pieces is brilliant. I think before Lampard came in, he was pretty much playing here, there and everywhere. But for me, as I say, Jack Radoni is a player who, he's far excelled goals and assists that his predecessor Callum O'Hare managed. So there's one measurable of success for old Jackie boy.
Yes, Jackie boy. That's how he's popularly known around Coventry. Let's go to loan signing of the season, Justin. We've gone with Manor Solomon at Leeds United. I was saying there were a lot of contenders for permanent signing of the season. Not really the case with loan signing of the season. For me, there was only ever one winner of this. Manor Solomon of Leeds United. With Crescencio Somerville leaving last summer, they were some very big shoes that needed filling, weren't they? Getting Manor Solomon was always a good start to doing that because he's a player with immense talent. We all know that. He was signed by Tottenham with the expectation of playing for them in the Premier League. Injuries stopped that from happening. He went to Fulham on loan. Injuries got in the way there as well. So this was the chance for a fresh start with him, hopefully being injury-free. He had a bit of a slow start, but once he got going, his talent really shone through. 10 goals, 12 assists. Only 3 players had more goal contributions than him this season. It's been incredibly evident on many occasions that he is simply too good for the Championship and has played a pivotal part in Leeds winning the league, topped off brilliantly by him scoring the 91st minute winner on the final day away at Plymouth to seal that. What a player, Justin.
Yeah, an incredible player. I think the most telling thing is that Manor Solomon has been a source of direct running, which I think has been very important for Leeds as they've come across a lot of teams who have just simply parked the bus against them. You've got to, because Leeds boast so much attacking talent. But what Manor Solomon has provided this season is obviously a lot of goal contributions, but he's taken risks. His goal against Plymouth is an epitome of that. But his just ability to getting to the byline and getting balls across the box when you've got to flip a coin and see what you can do. It shows that. He stepped up when it mattered as well. We hit the final 6 games of the season and he provides 8 goal contributions in that time. It's just a remarkable run of form, really, from a player who I wasn't sure of at the start of the season. I just thought they're just bolstering their squad a little bit with Leeds. He's a player who has really struggled to live up to very early hype in his career, but maybe this is the jump start he needs to go again. He's clearly got the talent. He showed it at this level. 22 goal contributions in the Championship season. In a team that's packed full of attacking talent, I think is a remarkable return. So, yeah, Manor Solomon, loan signing of the season.
Yeah, fair comment at the end there, Justin. It'll be very, very interesting to see where he is next season and how he gets on. Leeds will, of course, be very keen to get him back because they'll need some genuine star quality in the Premier League. He gives them that. doesn't he? We've seen that on plenty of occasions this season. Honourable mentions, Justin. Anyone you wanted to give a shout out for?
Oh, Shea Charles. Shea Charles has been incredibly good for Sheffield Wednesday this season. He probably should be stepping into the Premier League next season, but will likely be a starter for Southampton under a manager he's familiar with, Ryan.
Maybe. I would say that's quite likely. I've got a few. Wilson Isidore at Sunderland was having a fantastic season up until really the final third or half. But for long periods has looked like the real deal. Harry Suter at Sheffield United. Easy to forget about him. He was brilliant until he suffered a season-ending injury around Christmas time. Ben Doak, another one really, at Middlesbrough, who was fantastic. Then he's missed the final half of the season really with injury as well. And then I'll give a shout out for Freddie Potts at Portsmouth as well. Someone I'm a big fan of. Looks a really, really silky little player on loan from West Ham. Let's go to young player of the season then, Justin. On the final two awards. These are two of the big ones really in terms of the player awards, aren't they? Who have we got as our young player of the season, Justin?
I feel like I'm robbing you announcing this one because you're such a big fan of this player, but we've got Sidney Peck of Sheffield United. Like I said, he's a player you're a big fan of. I can see why. He's someone I've not really given too much appreciation to because he's just one of those players who gets on with his job, does it quietly, but he's very important in the job that he does. This is his breakthrough season as well, by the way, and he's just dropped 44 appearances, which is an incredible nod to his maturity in stepping into a team that essentially come down from the Premier League, has got the Premier League wealth, the rebuilding. He's come in, he's replaced Ollie Arblaster after he got injured, and he's done a very good job. And, Blades have been in the position of blooding a number of youngsters into the first team, and Sidney Peck is one that has benefited massively from taking that chance. As I was alluding to, he's a combative midfielder who essentially never takes a backward step when it comes to tackling. And when he does win the ball as well, he's got the ability to use the ball intelligently. So as I say, defensively very strong midfielder, wins a lot of duels, emits the energy and commitment a Chris Wilder team needs. And obviously he's proving that he can play with the ball as well.
Yeah, well, the crazy thing is at the start of the season, if you said Sheffield United would have the young player of the season in their side, you would have assumed it was Ollie Arblaster. A young midfielder who caught the eye for them in the Premier League, was being linked with loads of Premier League sides last summer, but then he did his ACL just 15 games in, and his season was over just like that. It was a big shame for him, a big shame for Sheffield United, but as one door closes, another door opens. Sidney Peck replaced him in midfield and has never looked back. For just 20 years old, he is such an intelligent player. His reading of the game is brilliant. He's so composed on the ball, great at winning and back, but he's so silky on the ball as well. He can do both sides to the game. His passing is brilliant. I love watching him play. And the thing is, if he's this good now at 20 years old, Justin, I'm very excited to see the player he develops into, because I think he's going to be having a top future.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's come from the Arsenal's academy. He arrived at Sheffield United back in 2021, so he's clearly been schooled in a way that is going to benefit him greatly. And obviously, stepping into Sheffield United's younger setup again is giving him the opportunity to step into the first team here. So there's a player there, as I say, who's got a very, very high ceiling. And if he can deliver a season that he's delivered this season, winning Young Player of the Season at the club, making as many appearances as he had in a team that is chasing promotion, then yes, his ceiling is definitely very, very high. He's just got to keep going. And it's a difficult thing for youngsters to do. But at just 21, he's got a hell of a long career ahead of him. And I think he's going to be one of those players. A lot of young players benefit at Sheffield United. We've seen over the years Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Kyle Walker going back very far, David Brooks as well. A lot of good players have come through at that club and have gone on to do some very, very good things. And I think Sidney Peck is another one in that list.
Let's do some honourable mentions. A fair few, actually. Joe Bellingham and Chris Rigg. They were both outstanding in the first half of the season. Their performances have somewhat dipped in the second half of the season. But if you're looking for two players who are going to be elite players in the future, these two will be. I'm pretty sure about that. If you're looking for who's been the best player under the age of 21 this season, then Sidney Peck is your man for me. Other shouts, Shea Charles at Sheffield Wednesday, who we just mentioned there, Justin, Ben Doak at Middlesbrough as well, on loan at Middlesbrough. A couple of shouts there as well. Justin, anyone for you?
I think it's been quite natural. We've had a lot of youngsters who have had very good periods of the season, but none that have really had consistent campaigns other than the likes of Sidney Peck, maybe Shea Charles as well. Ben Doak, you mentioned. Romain S before being sold was brilliant. Erin Casham was another one who was brilliant at Derby before being sold. So I think there's been a couple of players who have just been robbed of seeing really thrive at championship level because they've been picked off by clubs spending a lot of money on them, and that's what you're going to get at championship level when you've got good youngsters in it.
Yep. Can't argue with that at all. Right, we've got to the final award, Justin. It's the big one. It's Player of the Season. Now, this was the first season in a long time where there hasn't been a standout Player of the Season. Usually there's a very obvious one. Not this season. That's probably connected to the lack of brilliant goal scorers. So there are a few players in contention for this one. But our Player of the Season is Leeds United's Ayo Tanaka. Now, if you're asking me who I think has simply been the best player in the division this season, as simply put as that, I think it's him. His energy, his ability to win the ball back, his reading of the game is all exceptional. But his talent with the ball at his feet is superb as well. His passing, his running with the ball, even scored some important goals as well this season. He is the key cog in this Leeds team. He makes them tick. If he has an off day, Leeds have an off day. He is the heartbeat of this Leeds United side. And we spoke a lot in our awards episode about Leeds' defensive record and how good that is. How it could have been even better if they had a better goalkeeper. A big part of that is Ayo Tanaka shielding that back four. But Leeds are also by far the highest scorers in the division. A big part of that is Ayo Tanaka linking everything together. He is the glue between attack and defence. And this is part of the team who have without a doubt been the best in the Championship this season. So for me, Ayo Tanaka simply has to be our player of the season for the Championship in the 2024-25 season, Justin.
I think you've done him a disservice by saying he's just another cog in that Leeds team. I think
no, that's not what I was saying, you flipping idiot. I was saying he is the main cog. For God's sake, how could do you not listen to the past minute and a bit? I was hyping up as much as you bloody could do.
A cog implies there are other cogs. I don't think he's a cog. I think he's the engine. I think he's the chassis. I think he's the trying to think of my car knowledge here. The battery.
If there's cogs involved in some sort of machinery, then there's other cogs involved as well. There are other cogs involved at Leeds, but he's the one who makes every other cog move.
He's the engine. He's the engine that powers the cogs, Ryan. I don't think this Leeds team is half of a success without Ayo Tanaka within it. I think a team of 11 Ayo Tanakas could win the bloody Premier League. I think there's a player there who, let's be honest, he uses so much class. He's consistent and he's quality. He's at the base of the midfield. He can be in the final third. His timing of runs arriving in the box is remarkable. His defensive side of the game, his work rate is incredible. So as I say, I think a team of 11 Ayo Tanakas could win the bloody Premier League. There's a reason why he's won Players Player of the Year at Leeds. We mentioned that he's the engine. He's the beating heart of their team. He's the lungs. He's the whole entire cardiovascular system of that group. It is just, he's the player that makes things happen. And like I said, and I really do believe this, I don't think Leeds are as much of a success without Ayo Tanaka within it. I think that bit of recruitment is incredible. I did read that Daniel Farke wanted to sign him last season. I think Leeds would have got promoted last season if they had Ayo Tanaka in that starting 11. So
no, that's probably fair.
Yeah, there's no way of underselling his contribution because he does as much without the ball as he does with it. So numbers wise, you'll never stand out, but you need players like Ayo Tanaka in your team, and I'm delighted that he's getting the recognition.
Yeah, and it's worth repeating what we were saying yesterday about him, the fact that Leeds managed to sign him for just £3 million from the German second tier. You know, an unbelievable bit of scouting from them. And then when it came to this season, he was basically thrown into the deep end because he had only just signed, and then Ethan Ampadu got injured, was set to miss 2 to 3 months. Ilya Gruev also suffered a long-term injury as well. So Leeds had no one else. They had to chuck him in. And he's absolutely flourished, hasn't he, ever since then? And he's just gone from strength to strength throughout the season. And that's why the story that he's had this season has been remarkable. He's a fan favourite at Leeds. They absolutely love him. And heading into the Premier League, they don't need to strengthen in his position, do they? Because they've got a Premier League ready midfielder right here. There will be a couple of questions just as to why we didn't have him as permanent signing of the season, if we think he's the player of the season. He ran it very close. I just think Josh Murphy, in terms of the fact that he was free, and Portsmouth probably would have gone down if it wasn't for him, I think just nudges him ahead. I think you can have both. Do you know what I mean?
It's a 50-50, or a flip of a coin, which is a 50-50 odds, no less. But yeah. When you look at Tanaka's contribution, he's been a great driver in getting Leeds promoted. He's not the only reason why Leeds have been promoted by any means. But I do think Josh Murphy, without him, I think Portsmouth are in the bottom 3. You just look at the amount of goal contributions from a player playing in a team who have just come up from League One is frankly ridiculous in a season, or in a time, shall I say, that it's a difficult thing being promoted from League One, especially when your budget's not as high as other teams. So I think Josh Murphy stepping in, I think his contribution is probably more valuable than Ayo Tanaka's in that sense.
I think that's absolutely fair. If Leeds didn't sign Ayo Tanaka, they still had Ethan Ampadu, Ilya Gruev, Joe Rothwell. I know I mentioned that 2 of them got serious injuries, but I think they still would have probably got promoted because they would have found someone else to step in. But at the same time, I still think Ayo Tanaka has been the best player in the Championship this season. You know, yeah. That's the way I'm looking at it. So to kind of justify that, people may not like that explanation, but that's how I'm going with it. Let's do some honourable mentions, Justin. I've got a few Leeds players actually. Dan James, for me, ran this very, very close. He's had a real coming of age season and has been absolutely fantastic. Joe Rodon as well, Jayden Bogle, and then a couple of shouts from Burnley, Maxime Esteve, James Trafford. Any shouts from you, Justin?
I campaigned hard for James Trafford, didn't I? When you look at a goalkeeper having a massive contribution to a team, it is usually keeping teams in division. You've mentioned Victor Janssen already today. However, I think Trafford to me has been instrumental in the games that Burnley have not only kept clean sheets, but they've won by 1 goal as well. So again, if you're looking at a player who's had decisive impact on a team achieving its objectives, James Trafford is up there.
Let's go through then, Justin, our second tier awards for the 2024-25 season. We'll kick things off with manager of the season. We've gone with John Eustace of Blackburn Rovers / Derby County. Justin, goal of the season.
It's Mark Harris for Oxford versus Blackburn Rovers.
Shithouse of the season. We went with Quadro Bar of Watford for his fortnight dancing against Portsmouth.
Our permanent signing of the season is Josh Murphy of Portsmouth.
Loan signing of the season, Manor Solomon at Leeds United.
Our young player of the season is Sidney Peck of Sheffield United.
And finally, player of the season is, of course, Ayo Tanaka at Leeds United. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. A big thank you for arriving at the second tier awards this season. I hope you've enjoyed the red carpet, the glamour of the occasion. It's been a fantastic ceremony, and it nicely tops off the main chunk of the Championship season. But now all our eyes look towards the playoffs, because tomorrow we'll be revealing our playoff preview, where we'll be making our predictions for the first legs of the semi-finals. We'll also be doing live streams on our YouTube channel straight off the back of each of those semi-finals. So straight off the back of the one on Thursday night, and then Friday night, and then also actually for the second legs as well after that. So we look forward to seeing you then. For all of those things, we're very busy boys at the moment, Justin. We are earning our money over the next few weeks. But this has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.